You're up.
Wait,
The mics are on.
there it is.
All right, we're going to call the meeting of the Finance Committee to order on October 4th, 2017. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor Donches,
I'm here.
Alderman Cookson. Thought I saw him. Alderman
He was
Wilshire,
here, I
he
don't know
was
where.
here. Alderman O'Brien,
Present.
Alderman Karen.
Here.
Alderman Siegel, I am present, and Alderman Clemmons will not be attending this evening.
All right. Public comment. Are there any items that the public would like to discuss, any issues that the public would like to discuss with the committee? I don't see anything. Alderman Cookson is now entering. We thought you were here, but we didn't know where.
I thought I was here too.
Yes. Communications.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding purchase of new parking maintenance truck, value $35,796. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and authorize the purchase from MHQ in the amount of $35,796. Funds are available in Department 183, Economic Development, Parking Department, SURF.
Any questions or discussion on this motion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding purchase of holiday decorations, value $11,276. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve the purchase from Downtown Decorations in the amount of $11,276. Source of funding is Department 109, Civic and Community Activities, General Fund $10,000, and Department 183, Economic Development, General Fund $1,276.
And we have Mr. Shea from Great American Downtown to speak to this. So, Mr. Shea, why don't you come up in case there are any questions?
My name is Paul Shea. I live at
Well,
one.
you can sit at the...
sure thing.
You can enter the horseshoe.
This is the... anyone on these agenda items, we just bring them up to the
Thank you so
seats.
much. My name is Paul Shea, and I am the Executive Director for Great American Downtown.
And as we budgeted $10,000 for additional holiday decorations.
Yes, so the mayor's office in crafting the budget budgeted $10,000 for holiday lighting for this year. Last year we spent approximately $27,000, 25 of which was from the city and the Downtown Improvement Committee, the remainder of which was raised from the public. The plan this year for the Holiday Lighting Committee is to double the garland products that are on the street lamp posts up and down Main Street, as well as there's a review being done right now by an engineering firm to determine whether or not we would be able to use cross-street light products, or they're referred to in the industry as street lines. This, is going to take a review of the wind load capabilities of these poles. Of course, the big banner pole over Main Street was designed specifically to take on a massive wind load for a 4 by 40 foot area. But the posts need to be reviewed to determine if that product is structurally feasible. We should have information on that product, I believe, by the end of this week. The committee will convene next Wednesday to determine our options as far as that product goes. The garland was a good success last year. A lot of folks were really excited about that, along with the orb lights and some of the various colored lights that we used. However, the garland was pretty sparse in appearance. It was depending on the pole, it was a 15 to 20 foot length, which gave us about 2.5 coils going down. And so it's a very heavy duty product that will have a long life, and we chose it based on that. This is municipal grade. And what we're looking to do this year is double that garland up to give us about 5 to 6 coils going up the posts. The initial $10,000 amount was enough to cover the products with lights, which go on the not the intersection poles, but the poles in between those intersections. The intersection poles do not have power outlets because there's a big demand for power for the lights at the intersections. And so in discussing this with the committee, though we had enough to fund the lit garland, we discussed the idea of whether or not we would want to double the unlit garland at the intersections, which would give a more consistent look during the day as people travel up and down Main Street. And the group decided that we would really like to do that, though we did not have the funding. And in talking with economic development, there was some funding available, which was the additional allocation, I think, of about $1,200.
Questions, discussion? Alderman Siegel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Why didn't Downtown Improvement Committee provide the money?
I don't know the answer to that question. It was reviewed by the committee. I was not in attendance at that meeting. There are two people from the Holiday Lighting Committee who sit on the Downtown Improvement Committee, and I do not know.
Okay.
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Mr. Shea.
We have a communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding transit bus procurement increased purchase order amount value $21,656. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and authorize the increase to the purchase order with Gillig LLC in the amount of $21,656. Funds are available in 186 Nashua Transit Grant Funds, $18,493, and General Fund, $3,163.
I think Ms. Marchant is here on this. Maybe if you could approach, so to speak.
Good evening.
You want to brief the committee on this?
Sure. So the city ordered 430 or 29-foot Gillig buses. These are CNG buses, and 435-foot buses a little over a year ago. As part of the normal process of a new bus procurement, there is a I guess you call it it's an on-site tour and final specifications. And at that time, a couple items were added to each bus. And the cost to the city is the $3,100-ish that you have there, about 15% of the total cost. With that, we got some upgrades that I think will make a big difference for us and some cost-saving items. The smart tire pressure monitors are critical for the inside tires. We can't easily get to those, and so it's hard to tell when they're low. The rear yield flashing signs, we get rear-ended more than anything else. So adding this is a safety measure. The ADA two-tone flooring, these new buses have ADA spaces that the seats fold up, so that then you can put a wheelchair in. So we needed to make sure that those were clearly marked. So if somebody enters the bus, they know that they need to relocate. We forgot one color of our bus painting scheme, so we had to add one color in. And the spare seats and spare rear body panels, which will come painted, the exact right colors, are much cheaper this way. And seats, unfortunately, have a lot of accidents, and so we need to replace them occasionally. So these were cost savings if we bought them now, and so we've at only 15% of the total cost to the city.
Questions? Alderman Wilshire.
So we have 8 buses total?
We have, these are the, no,
No,
these are the 8 of the 9 fixed route buses are being replaced. So we have one CNG bus that was purchased in 2000, don't quote me on it, 12, 10, 11. These are the replacement for the other 9 fixed route buses. And we also have, we have extremely old fleet at this point. We are beyond any of its useful life. And so we also have on order, it takes a very long time to construct these buses, the paratransit, the beginning of the paratransit replacements. So I'll be back before you in not too long with something like this for those as well.
And
Those
how-
will be
I'm sorry.
gasoline, sorry.
How many of the paratransit?
We've ordered 6 at this time. That's all the funding that we had available. We have the RFP we did allowed us to order several more at the same price for a couple of years. And we are actually actively looking at electric, potentially electric buses. BAE right here in the city makes a pretty phenomenal electric bus engine. that actually Boston just bought 150 of. And so we're very interested in kind of looking at other options for the next couple as well.
Excellent, thank you.
Alderman Cookson.
Slightly off topic, but
Sure.
because you mentioned that we experience a lot of accidents being rear-ended, I'm curious if the data that you're going to collect after these buses are in place that have this new signage, if you'll continue to track those accidents, and hopefully we'll see a decrease.
That would, yes, we will absolutely continue to track it, and we would very much hope for a decrease, absolutely, for everybody's sake. We also have some flashing lights on the side of the bus, because the second most common thing is for their mirrors to be taken off. And so we've added some other, just kind of things, stay a little bit wider, please. So we'll see how this goes, and we're very much hoping for more safer solutions here.
Very good, thank you.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank
You
you.
very much.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding purchase of new city buildings department replacement vehicle, value $34,946. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve the purchase from Colonial Ford in the amount of $34,946. Source of funding is Department 126 Financial Services, SURF.
Discussion?
Just
Alderman Cookson.
thank you. So I was curious on this particular one because it's a 2016 Ford F-250 4x4 pickup. Is there any difference between this vehicle and the first vehicle that we approved this evening?
There is in terms of equipment. If you're familiar with the F-150, it's probably the most optionable truck on the market. There are thousands of ways to configure these. They're both similar. This is a little different size. It's not a crew cab. It's a extended cab though. It's a longer wheelbase. It's a overall bigger vehicle than the
Okay.
other one. Prices are very close, but the
All right.
options vary a little bit.
I was curious why we didn't use the same vendor.
We're specifically looking for a blue truck in this case because for whatever reason, the city buildings have always had blue vehicles. So that limited the option a little bit. There's a lot more white trucks out there than blue ones. So this
Okay.
dealer had it in blue and with almost exactly the equipment we had required.
And then there was one other specific piece that was identified in the contract, and I'm looking at is this a 16 or a 17?
It's a 16. Both the vehicles are 16s.
I thought there was one point within the contract that identified it as a 17 vehicle.
Get the bid summary sheet.
It was the bid summary sheet?
Yeah, the title page.
I must have slipped past it. So it is a 16 and
It
it's
is a
not a
16,
17.
yes.
All right. That was my only question. Thank you.
Anything else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Alderman Siegel.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding digester cleaning project, value $237,310. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and award the contract to Denali Water Solutions in the amount of $273,310. Funds are available in Department 169 Wastewater 81 Building Improvements.
And we have Ms. Osborne here on this from the treatment plant, in case you have comments or questions. Alderman Karen.
Yes, thank you. How often should the digester be cleaned? I noticed it was done in,
It's, the whole project is estimated to be every 10 years. It's manufacturer recommended every 10 years.
thank you.
Other questions?
It was cleaned in 2013.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Alderman Siegel.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding digester cleaning project, value $109,342. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and award the contract to Waldron Engineering in the amount of $109,342. Source of funding is Department 169 wastewater wharf.
Do you want to give an explanation of what we're doing here? Ms.
So first of
Osborne?
all, I want to mention that it's not actually the digester cleaning project, it's for the energy recovery project.
That's my errand heading, I'm sorry.
This is, the item we're on now is actually the energy recovery generator
Correct.
project rather than the digester,
Correct.
correct?
Yeah. So what this is the wastewater plant, one of the byproducts of that anaerobic digester that we're cleaning out. One of the products is methane gas, and we utilize that methane gas through an energy recovery generator. That generator has a couple of purposes. One, it powers up part of the digester complex, and another is that we can actually produce enough energy to feed back into the electric grid. It provides us some energy credits. It's a cost savings more than anything else. The generator that we had in existence has since ceased to function, and it is not financially responsible to attempt to fix it any longer. We've band-aided it quite a few times at large price tags, and it's at the point where we really do need to replace it. So this contract is to have a consultant come in and price out dual generators at this point. Previously, we were only running one, and we lose a fair bit of redundancy is important. As we're all probably aware, when one goes down, it's responsible to have a second one to kind of take up the slack. And it also allows us the opportunity for preventative maintenance and being able to maintain functions. So that's what this contract is for.
Questions, comments? Alderman Cookson.
So you wouldn't be running both of these generators at the same time. It's for the
Correct.
purpose of running one and having one as a backup or a spare, and then functioning that when you have to work on the first.
Yes, each one would be able to run our peak capacity.
And they're the same specs?
They should be.
They're
It's
identical.
not designed yet, but that's the intention, is to have two exactly the same generators so that you can run one and then the other.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Alderman Siegel.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding Headworks Upgrade Project, change order number 6, value $29,760. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and authorize change order 6 to the contract with T-Buck Construction, the amount of $29,760. Funds are available in Department 169 Wastewater State Revolving Loan Fund.
Discussion, questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Osborne.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding 2017 paving program, Phase 2, change order number 3, value $137,945. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve change order number 3 of the contract with Brox Industries, Inc. in the amount of $137,945. Source of funding is Department 160 Admin Engineering, General Fund, Multi-Year Paving, and Department 169 Wastewater Sewer Structures.
Do you, Ms. Gill, right?
Yes.
Do you want to give a explanation as to what we're doing with this change order?
Yes, this is a part of the bond money which was approved by all of you recently. We are, as part of approval, we are paving 42 to 43 residential streets, and they have very thin pavement. We did collect core samples, but it's just a rough approximation of the thickness of asphalt. So once we started milling and removing asphalt, the base started getting exposed more. So before we put a new top course, we have to patch these exposed areas. So we underestimated previously. So that's why we are requesting additional 4,000 square yards of patchwork. And then the second request as part of this change order is Bowview. There is a section which starts from Charlotte Avenue to Dead End, which we would like to mill and overlay.
So that's being added to the
Yes,
list
to
of
this
streets.
change order number 3.
Questions? Comments? Alderman Siegel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the question I have is, and I'd asked John this, we're taking this money out of the pool that we allocated for doing the street paving, and I agree with spending this money to do this, but does that imply that we're going to be able to pave less miles of street because we're using this extra money? Not that it's not well spent, but.
It's like, on an average, we are seeing that out of $2 million, we are paving approximately 6 to 7 miles. And right now, we are working with residential streets, and they're old residential streets which have been only paved once in like 30 years. So that's why. But in the future, this is just 15 streets that we opened. So in the future, what we'll try to do is we remove less asphalt. So that the patchwork needed is less.
So is the implication that we'll still get the same amount of street work done, it's just that we need to do more work here and somehow we'll do less work than we estimated on the other streets?
Yes,
Okay.
I hope I answered your question.
Well,
Well, the plan here is to spend $2 million this fall and then to again spend $7.5 million in calendar year 2018. Plus, we do have the repurposed money from the Broad Street Parkway amounting to $4 million, so we should spend a total of 11 plus next calendar year. But I think the point here is that in order to do these streets properly, like one of the streets we're doing here in terms of the patching is Everett Street, which is over here. You know, it's a little street off the beginning of Ledge. And when they initially assessed these streets, they thought that one coat would be sufficient, that the paving would be sufficient. They want to get a 3-inch pave. And upon further investigation, there are certain parts of these streets where the paving is not thick enough so that they, when they grind it down, there would not be 3 inches. They want to pave 2 inches. So the idea is to patch this so there's a patch in the thin spot. So when they put down the 2 inches, it makes a 3-inch surface.
Yes, I agree.
Correct? Is that
Yes.
roughly correct? So in order to do these streets right, this really needs to be done.
Yes.
Alderman Cookson.
You mentioned Everett, and I'm just pulling up the GIS. I thought Everett was a small connector between Central and the garden that the Great American Downtown does. Is that where Everett is?
Yes. Now, it doesn't actually connect with, it dead ends and then there's like a walking section. And then,
Right.
you can walk up the hill or down the hill to or from the rail trail. But the actual street ends, I don't know, 50 yards before the rail trail or something like that.
Okay. My question was going to be, how did that short section of street, how was it determined that that was going to be one of the priorities, one of the initial priorities of this paving project? And I understand there's a PCI index and so forth, but this is a relatively short street. And, I'm no engineer, but it would seem to me that you would rather go for length rather than short pockets of streets. So,
Well, I would say that this project involves this whole a project that we're talking about includes 41 different streets. So
Oh,
I'm
I
giving you
understand.
Everett as an example, but there are other streets that are not short. I think it's based on the PCI analysis and which streets where we can spend the money most effectively. Everett was on the list.
Yes, the thing is, Stantec is assessing all these streets and they assign PCI index. So they do look at collector, arterial, and these residential streets. So they give us a mixed bag of all these streets. And again, some of the streets like Buck Meadow is collector road, which is more heavy traffic. It's not a dead end. So.
It's fine. It was just an observation.
Right. I don't think ever it's been done since the 70s, actually.
I know there are several streets within my neighborhood that haven't been done since the 70s either, and they're in really good shape. But that's just, again, another side comment.
All right, any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And motion passes. Alderman Siegel.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding 2017 Pavement Preservation Maintenance Program, change order number 1, value $150,000. Motion, I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and authorize change order 1 to the contract with Seal Coating Incorporated in the amount of $150,000. Funds are available at Department 160, Admin Engineering, General Fund, Multi-Year Paving.
Yeah,
Mr. Husband?
Wayne Husband, traffic engineer. Steve Dukran asked that I accompany Mandeep tonight. There was an error in the Finance Committee memo. The actual motion should read, do you have the actual?
Yes. Actually,
The number should be $137,945.
it was the previous memo, the pavement, where we are doing the patchwork and Bowview, the previous motion.
Right.
I think the previous, didn't you say 137? Or
On this sheet in front of me, it's correct.
Okay, the memo,
Yeah, it's in the
the
Finance
last
Committee memo.
sentence of the
The last
Finance
sentence
Committee
of the,
memo.
But the motion that was made was 137.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
And as you explained, that consisted of one part of it for the
Patchwork.
patching that we discussed, and the other, the extension of Bowview west of Charlotte Street.
Yes,
So I think we're fine with the previous motion.
okay.
So the motion now has to do with change order number 1 and the value of $150,000, having to do with sealing.
Yes, seal coating, they are currently, seal coating is a vendor who is sealing couple of cracks in 3 streets in city of Nashua. And we have almost 20 to 30 streets which have a very higher PCI in the range of 90s, which we would like to get crack sealed this fall. So we have already spoken to Seal Coating, and they said they can take additional work if we get approval.
Now, just so you get a little more perspective, what this is, these are streets where the PCI is good. 87 to 93 typically is the range. But they have cracks in them, which make them vulnerable to deterioration during the winter. And Stantec, who's now involved in a contract to sort of, after 2 years, to take another look at various streets, has suggested that we are not doing enough, that we, the city, have not been doing enough seal coating, in other words, fixing these cracks. The theory here, and it's more than a theory, the facts are that if you fill these cracks with seal coat, you raise the PCI from 87 to 93 into the high 90s. So you take a street that's in pretty good shape but at risk of deterioration, you seal it up and you put it in like very tip-top shape. And for the cost here of $150,000, you can preserve 5 miles of streets, and that's what would be done here approximately. 5 miles of streets for a period of years, and it's like preventative maintenance on a fairly large number of streets for a relatively small amount of money, $150,000. It would cost to pave as an example, 5 miles of streets, we're probably talking, $1.5 million. This is 10% of that. Does that accurately?
Yes, I agree with you.
Okay. Any questions, discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Alderman Siegel.
Communication from Dan Kukin, Purchasing Manager, regarding Main Street vehicle detection at Ald Street, value $17,880. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and award the contract to Electric Light Company in the amount of $17,880. Source of funding is Department 161, General Fund, Street Infrastructure Improvements, $4,174, and the Paving Trust 81, Infrastructure Improvements, $13,706.
Any discussion? Alderman Siegel.
Just for the people watching, this is to avoid the problem of having the loops in the street constantly getting cut. And it just allows it to be out of the way, so it's less maintenance going forward, and it's a better system. Would that be a good summary, Mr. Husband? Thank you.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Communication from Dan Kukin, Purchasing Manager, regarding FY18 winter road salt, value $465,000. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and award the contract in equal amounts of $232,500 to Granite State Minerals, Inc. and Eastern Minerals, Inc. for a total amount of $465,000. Funds are available in Department 161 Streets General Fund.
You've heard the motion. Mr. Ibarra is here if you need him. Thank you, Mr. Husband, for coming in. But this is for the purchase of road salt. Is there any discussion, questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Alderman Siegel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Communication from Dan Kukin, Purchasing Manager, regarding communication retiree drug subsidy reopening plan years 2012 and 2013. I'd like to make a motion to accept, place on file, and contingent upon Board of Aldermen approval, authorize the city to enter into the service agreement and business associate agreement with Part D Advisors, Inc. on a contingency fee basis of 20% of any additional Medicare drug subsidy received over and above the $773,000 previously awarded.
Please note that Alderwoman Malitzi Golia is in attendance, and we also have Mr. Budrow, the HR Director, to explain this expenditure. Mr.
Retiree
Budrow.
drug subsidy is a program instituted by the Medicare and Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services in 2003, and it was intended to incent private or health insurer sponsors to provide retirees health plans with prescription benefits that would make it attractive for retirees to use those health plans rather than go to Medicare D. And that program, we no longer participate in that program directly because we moved from a self-funded retiree plan to fully insured plan. But in the years that we were self-funded, we applied and received subsidies from the government. And for the 2 years in question, 2012 and 2013, that was about $773,000. A small industry has sprung up in the last several years because what's been found is that with basically the use of software and data, there's a handful of companies that have gone back and reviewed the applications that were previously submitted and generally found that there's still some money lying on the table. Part D Advisors is one of those firms, and so we wish to do is enter a contract with them. They will take the data from our insurance company and from the application that was done previously, and perhaps, in their estimate, come up with another $60,000 to $115,000 that would be due the city. If they do so, we'll retain 80 of that, and they'll invoice 80% of it, and they'll invoice us for 20%. Well-regarded company. we've heard from 20%. I think is the best deal out there. That's what our insurance broker thinks. So there's really no cost to seek approval to enter the contract with them.
discussion, questions? Alderman Cookson.
In the situation that there may be zero that's returned, would there be a cost associated with engaging with this firm to do the exercise?
None.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boudreau. Unfinished business, none. New business, none. Tabled in committee, R17-128. Alderman Siegel.
I'd like to make a motion to take from the table R17-128.
And I believe we have Ms. Highland here to address this resolution, which we tabled at our last meeting.
Excuse me, Mayor Jones, we also have Jennifer Ziz and Joe Longville from NRPC, who were involved in writing the agreement for NRPC, and if they could join us, please.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
didn't know. I didn't recognize you. I'm sorry. So come on up, maybe.
I found there are two seats right
Okay,
there
right here.
between Alderman Cookson and Alderman Wilshire, if they could take those seats.
Alderman Siegel.
Yeah, I was just going to say that we have to vote on the motion to take from the
Yes.
table.
Motion is to take from the table. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes, and we have R17-128 before us. Alderman Siegel.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend final passage of R17-128.
Thank you. And why don't we have Ms. Highland or Ms. Malizia-Golia or whoever is going to brief us on this proceed?
I would just say that, and then I will turn it over to the representatives from NRPC as well as Ms. Highland from DPW. As you know, and as Mrs. briefly stated at our Board of Aldermen meeting, this agreement is not only for our community, but there's a cooperative agreement that is being presented throughout the region. We have a bit of a different circumstance because we actually host 5 events per year here. And as noted in the resolution, we receive a discount in our annual dues for hosting those events. So I don't know, Sally, if you would like to go or if we let Jennifer and
I can start off. I'm Sally Highland. I'm the recycling coordinator, and I work for the Solid Waste Department, part of the Division of Public Works. It's been the Division of Public Works that has been hosting events for collection of household hazardous waste since the mid-'80s. In the mid-'90s, Nashua was chosen to be the site of the state's first permanent household hazardous waste site, which allowed us to get a grant to purchase a building where hazardous waste can be stored for up to 90 days, household hazardous waste. And we continue with the Regional Planning Commission, who was also right at the beginning organizing these events, to work with the district, and we found that working cooperatively with other communities nearby has allowed us to get a higher level of grant money from the state to get more stuff out of the waste stream in our immediate district, and it has worked very well. So this is simply an agreement codifying what we do now. And right now, what we do is we have 5 events held in Nashua at the Public Works Garage each year, and it's been the same for a long time. The district also provides 1 or 2 satellite collections at the extremes of the district, either Pelham or Milford, to gather more people from that side of the district. So it's because we have the landfill, and we have the most population of all of the communities, it really behooves us to have these events held here, and we appreciate that. So with that, the Regional Planning Commission's representative, Jen Zist, and Jill Longvale, who really is the project organizer, may be able to answer any specific questions that you have.
Do you have anything to add to what Ms. Highland presented?
Sure, I'll just do just a really quick overview. I'm Jen Sis. I'm interim executive director at NRPC, and our role in this is we provide the staffing support to the district and to each of the municipalities as part of the cooperative agreement, and we have provided those services since the mid 1980s when the district was established. Our goal here is to make sure that the communities are successful and have some positive events where they can get the household hazardous waste out of the waste stream. But I will defer all of the more detailed questions to Jill Longval, who is the project manager and has been deeply involved in the drafting of the cooperative agreement and managing the program on a day-to-day basis.
Any questions, discussion? Alderman Siegel.
Is there a collection this Saturday?
There is. Thank you for bringing it up.
I figured I might mention that.
Appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
In Nashua.
In Nashua at the Public Works Garage from 8 a.m. to noon. And we anticipate a good turnout for the October event. And after this, we have one more event on the first Saturday in November, November 4th, I think it is.
That's correct.
And then we have a hiatus during the winter time. Nobody wants anybody with hazardous waste in their cars on the road in the winter. So we'll start up again in April.
Alderman Lopez.
Question that might sound deeply suspicious, so I just want to remind everybody that I work with Safe Station, but does this include needle collection?
No,
Okay.
no, it does not.
I wasn't sure if the protocols were the same.
No. We do not collect any kind of prescription drugs either, or over-the-counter drugs either at the events.
That said, if we do get calls from people who are looking to dispose of needles, we have literature to tell them where safe places are to dispose of that.
I could probably use a copy.
Alderman Siegel.
So no latex paint,
That's correct.
but if you put kitty litter in it and dry it out and remove it, you can throw the latex paint can away then? Is that still true?
The Department of Environmental Services says that latex paint, once it is solidified, can go into the landfill. So we ask residents to do that, add kitty litter or anything to dry it out so it's not pourable, and then bring it to the landfill and put it in the trash. I also ask them to put it into plastic trash bags so nobody sees them doing it and thinks, oh, I'll put my hazardous waste there too.
And bring it to the landfill rather than put it into the tote?
That's what I advise people, simply because I don't want the drivers to have to worry about whether or not it's latex or oil-based paints or stains or thinners, which are hazardous. So at the collection events, we take oil-based paints, stains, thinners, and anything that has to do with solvents.
Alderman Siegel.
Real quickly, what are common things that are not accepted? So as for those people that are watching.
Well, for instance, we do not accept asbestos. Nashua, however, for its own residents, has an approved asbestos disposal site at the landfill, so we can take care of our residents that way. We don't accept ammunition or flares.
Smoke detectors, we do not accept
Right.
smoke detectors. We do not accept fire extinguishers, no medications, no sharps.
We don't
Latex
take,
paint is the biggest one for anybody who's listening at home.
also, we don't take waste oil because all of the communities have some appropriate disposal for used motor oil. We recycle it at the landfill. We get it recycled.
Anything else?
Well, I would just add, as long as we're kind
Yes.
of covering the details, there is a charge per car. Is it $10?
$10 charge per vehicle. That covers up to 10 gallons or 20 pounds of waste. People are welcome to bring more than that, but we charge them accordingly. We also encourage people to carpool. So if you and your neighbor combined have less than 10 gallons, put it all in a single car, you'll only get charged the $10, and it helps the environment for having you carpool as well.
And all of this information is on the NRPC website.
It's all on the NRPC website as well as the city's website. And also, I should add that $10 charge per vehicle is payable with cash or check. We do not take credit cards.
Alderman Cookson.
Thank you. I was just going to ask, what is that $10 charge? What's the fee used for ultimately?
The fee is used to help pay for the program. Where the program is funded through three measures. One is a grant from the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. The second is through municipal fees paid by the 11 members. And the third is through participants at the collection events.
Thank you.
That the cost per participant is much higher than $10.
All those in favor of the motion to recommend final passage, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the resolution is recommended for final passage.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
in. Record of expenditures.
I'd like to make a motion that the Finance Committee has complied with the city charter and ordinances pertaining to the record of expenditures for the period September 15, 2017 to September 28, 2017.
Discussion, questions? Alderman Cookson.
I just wanted to make a brief comment that I provided Treasurer Fredette with a multitude of questions with regard to the warrant or the record of expenditures. And I wanted to thank him publicly for the job that he did to get me the responses to my questions, which involved Director of IT, Chief of Fire. And so I certainly appreciate the effort that was taken to get the responses. It was very helpful, and so therefore I don't have any questions this evening.
All right, well, Treasurer Fredette is here. I'm sure he gratefully accepts your thanks. Anyone else on the record of expenditures? Is there a motion on it? Did you make?
I did make the motion.
All right, Alderman Siegel has made the motion to approve the record of expenditures. If there are no other comments, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Public comment. I don't see any members of the public who wish to speak to the committee. Discussion. Do any committee members have any discussion items? Alderman Wilshire.
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And the meeting is adjourned at 7:47 PM.